Hello, my name's Katy Firth and I work at Stromness Museum. I'd like to talk to you today about our Malagan project. First of all, you're probably wondering what Malagan means. Well, Malagan is a way of life and a cultural set of beliefs and customs in parts of New Ireland province. This is a group of islands northeast of New Britain in Papua New Guinea, as you can see here. And specifically, the Malagan culture belongs to the north-east coast of New Ireland and the island of Tabar. Malagan is also the word used to name the wooden sculptures and masks which are carved in order to be displayed at a funerary ceremony commemorating a deceased person in New Ireland society. The sculptures capture the life force of the person, and once they've been revealed at the ceremony, the sculpture's use is finished, and they're discarded in the woods or in caves and left to rot. With the colonisation of Papua New Guinea in the later 1800s, Europeans started to collect the indigenous sculptures and presented them to museums as artworks. Some were sold at Christian missions in the area. They are now the most widespread example of an indigenous art type in museums all over the world. New York, London, and now Stromness. Two of the sculptures were sent back to Orkney by a North Ronaldsay man called John Muir in 1928. We don't know who John Muir was, apart from a presumption that he was a sea captain. We don't know what ship he was on and why the ship was at Papua New Guinea almost 100 years ago. But that's one of the reasons why I'm giving this talk, in the hope that some of you will be able to help us find out. This project is about the conservation, redisplay, interpretation of these sculptures, and the public engagement that goes along with that. We don't want the public just to appreciate these objects as pieces of art, but begin to appreciate the rich cultural tradition that they belong to. We started off in September last year with some conservation work on the two sculptures. They had been in storage at Orkney Museum and they were both damaged. Will Murray from the Scottish Conservation Studio and his wife Wilma came up to Orkney and spent a week cleaning, gluing, retouching and rebuilding the sculptures. Will discovered that they had been copiously varnished at some point, maybe when arriving in Orkney, and this makes it more difficult to see the vibrant pigments that they were originally decorated with. We have commissioned a new display case and special stands to redisplay the sculptures alongside our ethnographic collection at Stromness Museum, which includes other objects from the Pacific, including artefacts collected on Captain Cook's expedition to that part of the world. It makes a lot of sense to display these objects here. Tankernes House Museum does not currently have any permanent exhibition spaces where the Malagans would fit in, so we're very grateful to Orkney Museum for allowing us to display them on a long-term loan. The most special part of the project for me has been to connect with some people in New Ireland province. I've been in touch with Fabian Peno, who's the youngest Malagan master carver left in New Ireland today. He's able to give me a unique insight into the carvings. For instance, he explained that this design is of a drongo bird, a bird of paradise which lives in New Ireland. The symbols carved and painted onto the sculptures are fascinating, and we will probably never have a full understanding of their meaning, as they're so connected to a culture very distant from our own. One of the elements of the project is to create 3D models of the sculptures using a technique called photogrammetry, and I'd like to thank Stromness Museum trustee Hugo for his assistance in creating a model from our hundreds of photographs. Part of the outreach work is to work with Stromness Primary School on a project centred around the Malagans. The pupils have been learning about them and have responded with many questions, which is fantastic, and it shows they're being really inspired by the sculptures. Next week, when they're back in the classroom, they'll begin writing emails to a small class of pupils the same age as them on the island of Lihir in New Ireland province. Both classes are really excited to connect with another island school over 8,500 miles away. This summer and autumn, our plan is to deliver some art workshops inspired by the Malagans. and our plan is to come to North Ronaldsay to deliver a workshop there, COVID-19 permitting. We're also hoping to meet with some folk from North Ronaldsay to discuss researching John Muir and trying to find out a little bit more about how the sculptures came to be brought back to Orkney. So I'd really love to hear from anybody who's interested to help us do that. I'll put my email address in the description box. So I'd like to thank North Ronaldsay Science Festival for asking me to give this short talk. I'd also like to thank the project funders, Museums Galleries Scotland, the Headley Trust, the Hugh Fraser Foundation and Cook Aquaculture. I'd like to also thank our project partners, the Orkney Museum, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you to the museum to see the Malagan sculptures in person when we reopen.